Hello and welcome to another edition of Social Media Finance Online Series. As always, I am joined by my good friend and business partner, Max Hanna. And I'm very honoured to be welcoming two very special guests for you today. It's going to be a really interesting event, exciting event. We've got in the studio with us, Benedict Kingsmill, who is a client partner at LinkedIn. Welcome, Ben.
Great to be here. I can't believe after how many years we're actually for the first time meeting in person in the studio. This is transformational. I'm so excited.
Yeah. You have been obviously with us virtually doing many events, and for those that don't know who Ben is, I can give you kind of a quick overview of Ben's history and kind of why we're such big fans of talking to you. So Ben, and again, you can probably give a bit of introduction, but you have such a extensive experience in working financial services. You work with some really large-scale enterprise clients. You specialize in obviously marketing solutions and specialize particularly in obviously really leveraging and maximizing LinkedIn for paid performance. But yeah, could you just kind of give me an overview of who you are? That was my brief introduction and kind of what you're doing, and yeah, just give us a high-level overview as to the state of LinkedIn and where we're going.
If only there was a LinkedIn style platform that gave all those details away. But yeah, no, as it says on my LinkedIn profile, I've been working with LinkedIn, working at LinkedIn for nearly 7 years now. As you mentioned, specializing with working with some of our most cherished financial services brands. And prior to that, I have a background in brand and marketing consultancy, again, specialized in financial services. So the idea really is to bring some of that goodness to our most cherished clients and help them get the most out of the platform.
Perfect. And you are, the man we want to speak to today. And I'm sure many of you have questions for Ben. So you can actually feel free to comment and ask questions. We want to make this as interactive as possible. And also join Max. Lovely to have you here for another event. How are you today, mate?
Yeah, it's great to be here. I think we're living in a really exciting time, with the power of LinkedIn, the power of content marketing. Finance professionals out there in financial services firms have a really exciting opportunity to do great things. And, I always say content is one of your best sales reps. It's there 24/7. It's there to promote your brand, to generate awareness. I'm really excited to hear what you've got to say today. And yeah, if you are in the comments, please do let us know what you think. If you've got any questions, we've got shout out to Les here joining us from Rutland. We'd love to hear you in the chat. This is your event. Ask questions as we go through, and exciting times.
So before we introduce our next special guest, and we'll be introducing her very, very soon, I wanted Ben just to spend a few minutes, if you could, just kind of laying out the stand, so to speak, from your perspective, and have to kind of stress today's guests are speaking as personal representatives rather than the company. In your own experience, kind of where are we now with LinkedIn? Give us kind of like the high level 50,000 foot overview. Where are we now in 2024 and where do you see things going?
Yeah, the biggest thing to kind of lay out first of all is that we've now reached that milestone of 1 billion members. So LinkedIn is universal. If you take the UK, for example, there's approximately 30 million professionals working in the UK, and there's 30 million members of LinkedIn in the UK. Drilling down even tighter at the most recent analysis, we saw third-party data says that there's about 2.5 million people who say they work in financial services in the UK. And funnily enough, when you look at LinkedIn data and look at the industries and professionals and companies that they work at, we have 2.5 million professionals in financial services. So in other words, if you want to communicate, if you want to engage, if you want to your point, Max, share your content with professionals, this platform is, it's a must do. It's absolutely sort of almost mandatory for financial services businesses.
Absolutely, and I think that to echo that point, we love LinkedIn. I spend so much time on LinkedIn as a platform. It's an amazing platform, and I think, as you said, particularly financial services, really, I would say, maybe I'm a bit biased, the only game in town really for like truly building like deep connections with your audience in the virtual space, and it's just a perfect platform for financial services brands. And kind of along that side, I wanted to kind of have your perspectives today as kind of the LinkedIn expert, the man on the ground on LinkedIn, and obviously me and Max as the middle ground. But I wanted to bring in obviously today because we're focusing on obviously on sales today. So this conversation is going to be talking about LinkedIn, but we want to have that kind of perspective from a marketing background, but also sales. And with that, I wanted to kind of bring in our next special guest. She is absolutely brilliant. Jackie Perinotti, who's VP Global Sales Performance at FIS, and a inspirational and really fantastic sales leader. So welcome, Jackie, to the LinkedIn event today.
Thank you, James. It's so good to be here. Thank you for that phenomenal introduction. Very kind of you. I have to say, a little starstruck when I think about the years I've been on the platform in general. Did not expect I'd be speaking alongside experts like the three of you. So very, very honored to be here today. Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. And I wanted to kind of set the standout in terms of the frame of the conversation today. And for everyone who's attending, please do feel free to add just commentary, questions, anything you want. So Jackie is obviously going to be talking from her perspective as a sales professional. And I think there's a massive unlock of value for sales professionals on LinkedIn. And Ben is going to be speaking as an expert at LinkedIn. But I think giving the perspective from marketing teams, because you work with them all the time, we kind of bring them together. Me and Matt's be bringing them all together. So I had an opening question for perhaps you, Jackie. Could you kind of give us your overview, as we did with Ben, like on LinkedIn, like, as a sales professional, how have you found LinkedIn and why do you continue to find it useful for your own career as a sales professional and as a leader?
Definitely. So similar to you, James, LinkedIn is something that is always on for me, both as a sales leader, a professional in the financial services space. So I've been in the industry for 15 years, and throughout many different roles, LinkedIn has always been a part of them. And I think, what's tremendous about it is, to your point, on 1 billion members, it is the place to make and form lasting connections in a very virtual world. So whether you're an individual contributor in sales looking to make new connections with clients and customers, or if you're a sales leader going out there into the market to identify new talent, the power of the level of connection that you can make in a virtual space is really amazing and fantastic to see the evolution. When I was trying to think back in time to my first sales role, when I would utilize LinkedIn as just a mechanism to go and search, for new connections to make. And now it's really, as my network has grown, become a place where I visit regularly for news on, where are my clients elevating professionally? What new accolades are they sharing on LinkedIn? How are the professional organizations that we're involved in sharing industry news? So it's so much more than just a talent platform and a place to go look for jobs. It's truly evolved into a lot more than that for all of us in sales. So looking forward to seeing some of the questions and just the ways that our members on live today are utilizing the platform as well.
I love that point, by the way. I used to have this, we've all heard the expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I think the notion of LinkedIn existing to democratize that, to mean that, we can all be responsible for building our own networks on LinkedIn. So as we can, exactly to that point, we can create our own networks and we can influence our own outcomes through the platform. It's one of the things I absolutely love about LinkedIn.
Could you just, I suppose, unpick that a little bit, Ben, from your perspective, working, I suppose, from traditionally with marketing teams, how are you advising, I suppose, how are you seeing like this kind of continued, I suppose, partnership between marketing and sales evolve when it comes to LinkedIn? Because we obviously we work with both marketing and sales teams, and there's still, in our experience, quite a lot of disconnect between how both approach LinkedIn. But could you kind of expand upon how you're approaching that?
Yeah, and I think sales and marketing alignment is absolutely, at the heart of successful deployment from both teams. Ultimately, both teams are responsible for driving commercial advantage for the business that they are operating within. And I think historically there's been a sort of sense of almost like a baton pass between marketing to sales. I think that's the old school way. I think really the kind of the future of sales and marketing alignment is aligning along that journey. So making sure that the marketing goals are set up to help the sales teams achieve what they're setting out to do. And ultimately, the test is, what is the commercial outcome of this activity? And I don't think any of the marketeers on this call would want to say that we do marketing for marketing's sake. Marketing is about driving commercial outcomes, and it's the sales team that's responsible for delivering that. So really, it is nonsensical not to have that kind of alignment. And in my experience and with the senior stakeholders that I consult with, getting that started early and getting that alignment as real as possible, and actually measurement is crucial as well. So measuring outcomes. So you should be able to sit and at the end of a period of marketing activity, look and have valuable feedback from the field sales team and understand what impact that had. And if it had no impact, well, it wasn't successful. And that commercial acumen, that commercial rigor and measurement, I think is something that we should all be focused on, and particularly in the world of digital, which enables that measurement so much more easily than more traditional legacy marketing efforts.
Yeah, that's one of the amazing things of LinkedIn is you can get that measurement, but a lot of teams that we work with actually are unsure of how you actually measure success. And I'm a big believer in process, and I think for sales and marketing teams, you can apply a process to LinkedIn, to social selling, and you can measure the whole journey. And I just want to shout out to a few comments in here. So Susie, who's mentioned Benedict here, LinkedIn has created a safe space to connect and share. That's true. Les is asking if we can talk about Sales Navigator later today. Alan's asking if there'll be any changes to costings on the LinkedIn system. So we'll kind of answer those questions as we go through. But I thought it could be a good time, just as you were talking a bit about that sales and marketing alignment, I'd just like to bring up a quick graph to show the audience, a quick kind of funnel, just to kind of help people think through the process and how you get that kind of sales and marketing alignment. Now, this funnel here is something that we use at Social Tree, but it is debated, so I'm not going to say like this is the definitive answer, and some of you on the call today will have your own funnels. Some people don't even believe in funnels. There's this kind of circle theory out there. You're talking about a trumpet earlier on. So this is open to debate, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments as well about how you apply a process to LinkedIn. And the way that we view it is into 3 stages. So if you take a kind of simple funnel here, where we kind of see LinkedIn is really powerful is that awareness piece. And with LinkedIn, like you said, millions of participants on LinkedIn, professional audience, you can get amazing impressions, and content equals impressions equals perception. And the organic reach is incredible. Like one post organically, you can get like 1,000, 10,000 views. The cost to advertise is really cost effective when you think about the quality of the audience on there. And in terms of that as well, through messaging, you can drive top of the funnel leads, form downloads. You can push them into the consideration phase. Maybe you're sending people to events. Maybe you're sharing research, case studies, and you can use this LinkedIn to support that consideration. And then the bottom of the funnel, when you're trying to convert people to a call or a meeting, you can use LinkedIn to actually book those meetings to get people through that journey. I put on there, it happens after around the 7th touch point, but actually some studies, I think you mentioned
up to 21 touch points. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all love a funnel, and we've got, as I mentioned, I've seen, double-ended trumpets. I've seen, as you say, circles, onions, everything. But I think the funnel's really helpful because it does delineate between those stages. And I think actually a more accurate thing would probably be a squiggly line, because people, and this is a big point I kind of wanted to make here, is that particularly within financial services, particularly within the world that we're talking about, a huge amount of your target audience is not in market for your product at the moment you're choosing to advertise. And in fact, that buyer journey could be, 100 days, it could be 150 days plus. So that top funnel piece is about keeping that brand awareness there, keeping you top in mind for those out of market. So when they are in market, they're ready to transfer through that funnel.
And that's the question I wanted to, I suppose, bring Jackie in to answer, because I think this is where the big confusion can come in about LinkedIn, because whose responsibility is it for that kind of, I call it like a holding pattern, like a plane, like not ready to buy now, but I want to stay connected with you because in 6 months' time, I might be ready to buy and I'm interested in what you do. It's just not right for me yet. I'm changing jobs. So Jackie, as a sales professional, as a sales leader, is that responsibility of sales and LinkedIn if you've got a sales team, or is it still very much marketing need to deal with that and we're just going to wait until we get those sales qualified opportunities?
For me, it's both. I see marketing as really being the experts around the content and bringing the industry trends forward and getting kind of the message reflective of what we want to share. But then from a sales perspective, salespeople are expert communicators, and LinkedIn is very much a communication platform. So it's what we take and do with those messages to really make those trusted connections with clients and across the industry. So I think we'll continue to see intersections between the two. And as I look at that funnel, and we do love funnels and sales and stages and process, and it's the world we live in, but I think it's an important one to take a step back and think about the audience, right? And for us in sales, it's thinking about the client. What feeling are they having throughout that process as they're interacting with our level of content? Are we noticing trends that they're gravitating to a specific piece of work or a specific message that we've gone out there? And if they have, right, what else do we as salespeople, as, really kind of taking hold of that connection and that relationship, what do we owe our customer to be able to share with them? And so I think we'll continue to see, the evolution around just ownership and what we take and do with this platform. But as I think about the role in sales, it's really on the individual to take control of their network, to take control of what their voice will become on the platform. And we've seen it, play out in some really tremendous ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I don't know, I think to that point, it's something for, I suppose, Ben and Jackie to think about, but Ben, I suppose start with you, is the content question around people being comfortable creating on LinkedIn. A big emotional inhibitor, both at a personal level, but also at a brand level, is what do we actually do on LinkedIn? We want to come across as engaging, but we don't want to jeopardize our brand values. So it'd be interesting, to hear both your answers. Start with Ben. How do you advise, financial services brands to play the new content game on LinkedIn? What does that look like?
So I think you're absolutely right, and we obviously, as a community, the community thrives from content being produced, and we know we want to hear from our leaders and from the key people within an organization. And when you go broader than that, in my experience, what people love is guardrails. People like to have a sense of, you can do this, but don't do this. Yeah. And I think in the absence of guardrails, actually the nervousness increases. I think people sort of would rather not do anything, just in case they got it wrong. Yeah. And I frequently advise the businesses I work with, it doesn't have to be super prescriptive, but giving that kind of that brief overview of what is good and what is not so good actually encourages and empowers people to post more often. Yeah. But I also think this idea of the human element and empathy is really important. And across the board in marketing, we've seen this colossal rise in the notion of influencer marketing. And when we kind of bring that back into the professional world and into kind of B2B as well as sort of high consideration B2C, what we're seeing on LinkedIn is no different from that notion of influencers. Yes, it has a LinkedIn flavor to it. It's not, we're not talking about kind of Instagram to sell
beauty products.
Exactly. But that human connection, and again, we can't forget where we are. We were joking about being in person for the first time, but this sort of trust is absolutely fundamental and foundational to every element of marketing communications at the moment. And people trust people.
Yeah.
People want to hear from people. They want authenticity. They want empathy. They want to understand, bits about that person that they're going to, buy a service or a product from.
Yeah.
And that understanding, that notion of empathizing with people want people means that content marketing and thought leadership and participating in the global conversation is an essential part of financial services marketing in 2024.
And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head around empathy. And Jackie, could you kind of give an answer on that in terms of your perspective on breaking the ice of content? Because that is, in all honesty, one of the biggest roadblocks. Ben, obviously, you had your perspective on obviously finding that balance between human emotion and creativity. But Jackie, give us your perspective on breaking the ice.
Well, content. First, I fundamentally agree with everything that Ben just said. It's very real. I think at the end of the day, as you think about the way you want to approach the platform, you have to show up as yourself, your authentic self with an authentic message. And it can be really unnerving thinking about, what does my network want to hear from me? I'm going out there and maybe, revealing something that I wouldn't ordinarily in my typical day-to-day business correspondence, right? And in sales, kind of navigating a deal and talking about a solution. And so the way that I've sort of approached my content on the platform is I have brought up some topics that are potentially a bit sensitive, right? As we think about women empowerment and financial services leadership. And so to me, LinkedIn has exposed a way to really have an active and powerful voice in that space. It's created an opportunity for me to enhance my professional affiliations, get requests to come and speak and share, because at the end of the day, to Ben's point, people are people. People are ultimately going to buy from those that they know, they trust, they connect to, they follow, right? They care about. And so while it can definitely at times be intimidating, and there's absolutely posts where I'm like, oh, I can't believe I went out there and I said all of that about myself. But at the end of the day, we should all celebrate our accomplishments. We should all talk about the things that might not be so incredibly comfortable to share, because that's ultimately where you might be able to reach somebody that will be looking for a message like that, or looking for a mentor or connection to make. And when you get to them at that right time, that can create a really powerful and a lasting partnership.
Yeah, 100%. And we mustn't let perfect be the enemy of good.
I love that quote.
And I think that you're so right. And if you want to be in the conversation, you have to participate in it. And it's not always going to be, plain sailing, but good is what we're aiming.
Yeah, and I think just for comment on that, speed as well. Mm-hmm. One thing I've noticed is that so many people miss the point around social media content being as quality is as important as speed, and the half-life of content is shorter and shorter, especially in financial services now. News changes every single week, technology changes every month, the world flips on its head every half a year, so you can't have the same hang-ups around the same hang-ups you would traditionally do. You have to be fast, you have to create responsive.
So I have a slightly contrarian view to that. I think absolutely, when we're talking about an individual commentary,
yes,
I think you're absolutely right. I think being timely, being relevant,
yes,
all of those factors come in. But I also think, and this is more from the marketing side, perhaps, than the individual personal brand side, I also think that as marketeers, we're often incredibly guilty of seeing wear out long before wear out exists.
Yes.
So simply because we're in the business, you're looking at that piece of content and looking at it all the time and think, my God, that we've got to change that.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, a recent study from Nielsen, the research company, was saying that a frequency of above 10 and sometimes as high as 14 is what's required for that prospect to take an action.
Right.
And so I think, again, I work at LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn most of the day. That doesn't mean that everyone else is behaving on LinkedIn exactly as I am, because I'm an employee there. But it's so you have to kind of remember the lens, and it's the same with marketeers. They very often are changing their content calendar far too quickly before they've reached that frequency. And when they're setting up their campaigns, that sweet spot is above 10, which feels counterintuitive because you think if I saw something 10 times, but again, think about the context that we're looking at, this content in. And that's, again, a hugely powerful thing about the platform is that your content is sitting between the thoughts of a chief executive or the results from a company, and the average member is scrolling through the equivalent of the height of Big Ben every day. That's a phenomenal amount of content, and so with that, you start to think maybe a frequency of 10 is even too low to stand out and be noticed in that context. And that would be so totally agree on timely and speed, but equally I think our instinctive fear of always thinking it has to be brand new, actually give it some time, let it be seen a couple of times before, and then your engagement will go up.
Well, that's the algorithm, isn't it? You've got to tweak the algorithm, put some older content up for people.
If you ever don't know how to answer a question, you say, it's the algorithm.
Just a few kind of comments coming through here. So Les talking about sales and marketing, it needs to be a continuous feedback loop. Be interesting to hear from you both around that sales and marketing relationship and how you can build those feedback loops. So maybe Jackie, if you want to take a stab answering that one first. How do you kind of have a feedback loop between sales and marketing?
Anytime, I think about a new industry or a market that we're looking to enter, or, a new engagement that we want to explore, I think marketing's got to be front and center to the work that we do. And so to develop a continuous feedback loop can be a challenging one when you operate within a very, very large organization. So my advice would be to identify some champions that are familiar with your goals, familiar with your work. But back to James's point on speed, I do fundamentally understand how the algorithm works and how you want to give content some time out there on the platform. But in terms of being able to share timely news and things that are kind of happening, engagements in real time, I think it's a balance. And so for me, it's just making sure you've got a team that's working proactively together. You've got, a message, you've got a plan, you've got consistency, because I think separate of, having really impressive content, if you go out there with 1 or 2 strong posts a year and then you're mute for the rest, it's, it's almost like you're kind of missing out. You want to hear from that voice more often. So I think, while not everybody, I am on LinkedIn quite a bit throughout the day, definitely not as much as you are, Ben, working for LinkedIn, or you, James and Max, but I check in on my comments. I want to see what my network is asking for and looking for. And so I think it's first and foremost creating a team that's working together and communicating. And then second, identifying what your plan is so that you can stay consistent and really at the end of the day have that outcome that you're looking to achieve in mind throughout the whole process.
I love that clarity, and I think that's absolutely spot on. And I think all of us could learn from those words, actually, from setting the outcome you're seeking to achieve up front and kind of working backwards from that. And I think certainly that's much more sort of sits much more easily naturally within the sales org, but that marketing alignment, would be better achieved if that outcome was set and it was you're directing in that way. Yeah, but that's really clear. I think it's fantastic.
Well, you can watch it back. It's recorded, so you can play it for your means.
We can talk anytime too, Ben.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think when it comes to content marketing as well, and we work with a lot of sales teams around this, and I think what we're seeing is a lot of sales teams are having to begin to educate themselves on the basics of content marketing. And if you look at some of the biggest success stories when it comes to businesses, they've all grown through content and grown through inbound marketing. And for me, it's all about just making, if it's lead generation is your objective, about making people aware of the problems, that aware of the talking to people's problems and offering content to solve those issues. And through effective content marketing, that's how you can generate leads, generate inquiries. But people also got to be aware, in my opinion, of the different functions. So some people are more just going after awareness about changing perceptions or trying to land certain kind of messages out there. So I think different teams has got to be aware of the purpose of the content and like you said about what they kind of want to get out of it.
And also very often it's shortlisting as well. So again, within financial services, you're in a competitive environment. Often the battle is to get onto the shortlist, and then product differentiators or other elements can come in. But if you're not on the shortlist, then you're completely out of consideration. But just picking up on what you were saying, I think bringing it back to this notion of personal brand, which is very, very important, particularly around the individual contributors and those sorts of areas that we were talking before. Personal brand is no different from any other brand. It's a promise. It's what's kind of said about you when you're not in the room, and you have the ability to directly control and influence that. Otherwise, if you're not doing that, then that gap will be filled by uninformed perceptions or industry norms. And I sometimes if I'm running workshops with large organisations about encouraging members of the team to post more often, when you think about the first time you meet someone, you've never met them before, almost certainly what you'll do is Google their name, and almost certainly the first result that'll come up will be their LinkedIn profile. And therefore, if you're not curating and ensuring that first impression is one you're happy with, then you're missing a massive opportunity. So that first meeting, instead of someone walking in the door with what you have put out there for them to understand about you, they're walking into which is a much warmer environment. You're much more likely to achieve success afterwards. You're just leaving that open. You're leaving it on the table, and it just feels like a massive miss.
Do you think that there is actually, just as you said earlier on about how marketeers have a bit of a skewed world around like how much people go on platforms? I think maybe we're all a little bit biased around actually this skills gap and the knowledge gap around, you said about creating a personal brand. I think it's a really big undertaking for lots of people, LinkedIn. And I think that we just kind of assume that, just go on LinkedIn and, it's LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn, come on. But I think if you work in sales, you naturally have an affinity to be quite good at, being out there. But there's lots of people who would, I think, find a tremendous amount of value lending their voice to LinkedIn, but really don't have the confidence and knowledge. So my question, also I know Matt probably have some more questions coming through, but just a quick question around for both of you, and Jackie, I'll start with you, is whose responsibility is it to really activate your kind of brand on LinkedIn? Is it the company you work for, or is it solely on the shoulders of each person to show up on LinkedIn? So yeah, Jackie, what do you think?
It's definitely on the individual. And you're absolutely right that there is a skill gap that exists. I think, sometimes generational factors play into that, and sometimes just overall comfort level with utilizing the platform in general. But, simple basics, just like, making sure that you've got a current photo on your profile picture, that your current role is up to date and is really descriptive of not just, I'm a sales executive, but what are you doing for your markets that you're serving? How are you helping to provide value in the industry? And so it's almost kind of flipping what would traditionally look like a resume on paper into a profile and making it more about what you want your connections to know about you. And so we found that by working across our sales team and doing some work, and we've partnered with Social Tree on a lot of this, to help activate it for us, just providing that level of education around this doesn't have to be overly complicated, right? You can spend the time to create and craft a profile you're comfortable with, come up with a cadence of posting that really suits you, but it's really identifying what do you want that message to be. And to me, that's on the individual, because you can get all of this amazing company-wide content, but until you take it and make it really specific to what you want your network to gravitate to, that work is really on the individual. And it doesn't have to be so daunting.
And that's what just before is the hyper localization of content. And I think that this is a really emerging, and I'm keen to get your perspective later on, Ben, on this, around how I think the future will be mass personalization at scale, both on the paid side but it's on us to say, my audience is say 400 people. I need to create content which is in my voice, talking to the very specific needs, and you need to do the same for if you're a finance person, for your audience in Buenos Aires or London or this vertical. It's a lot of pressure on you, and for your paid campaign, you're going to have specific paid campaigns which talk to that person almost at an individual level. And I think that's where the kind of iterations that we're moving towards is a world LinkedIn platform where you're going to log into LinkedIn and have such a personalized experience, and that comes from you as well in terms of what you produce on LinkedIn.
But I think picking up on Jackie's earlier point about outcomes, I think you've got to drill into what the outcome you're seeking to achieve is. And as a salesperson within a sales organization, you are looking to fundamentally help your sales, help your selling, and as a platform, LinkedIn can do that. I think there's also, as I mentioned before, there's the one to many, message that can come from posts, but there's also the commercial element, which is people come to LinkedIn to achieve something. There's an expectation that after spending time on LinkedIn, they will leave their time having improved their professional life in some way, and that again is a phenomenal opportunity for high consideration or B2B brands, because there's the mindset of the member when they're on there. They're not passing the time. They're not standing at the bus stop waiting for something to happen. They've come in with an engaged mindset, actively looking with an expectation to be met, which is phenomenal as an opportunity.
Yeah, we've actually had a question come through here, which would be good to hear. So Rafaela has asked, Ben, as someone deeply embedded within LinkedIn's ecosystem, could you please provide detailed insights into specific features, content types, and engagement strategies that banking professionals should prioritize to effectively boost sales conversations? So any kind of
there's lots of specific and
there's a lot going on in that one.
I mean, there's a lot to unpick there, and I think there's a number of different kind of products, and we'd always recommend a kind of mix of products being the most powerful. But I know I've done this already, but I would go back to outcome, and I think if when we think back to the funnel, I think a product mix that is hit against that. Where you are, whether it be awareness or consideration or conversion, but also, and I'm bringing in another point, I'm repeating myself again, but also this is an always on platform. This is a platform where people are frequently coming back and forth, so you can't really afford not to be live when you're out there as a marketeer. You need to be considering a content runway, which is sort of like sort of tiered, if you like. If you think of the notion of hum, sing, shout. So you can think of the Queen song, "We Will Rock You." So you've got a sort of a low-level hum that's running across the bottom. That's your always-on kind of presence. You've got your sing, which is when you've got important things to say, and then your shout when you've got big campaigns that perhaps happen 3 times a year. But all 3 of those layers are absolutely crucial to success. And Rafaela, I'm not sure if that answers your question in detail enough. So send me a connect and send an email, and I'll come back with it.
Just on that I'm really enjoying from LinkedIn is the new thought leadership ads. I'm seeing tremendous results with those. And talking further to what we've been talking about, the personal brand and boosting individuals posts. Whenever I've been running paid ad campaigns, they have consistently got significantly more engagement and click-through rates than the other forms. So I really think LinkedIn made a great move with those thought leadership ads. So that's something.
There's some really exciting news, a really exciting development with thought leadership ads, which is historically you could only promote from an employee. Now, with their permission, you can promote from anyone. So if, for example, a journalist has said something in a post very positive about your brand, then you can post from there. So this comes back to what I was saying at the beginning about the notion of professional influencers. There's we call them finfluencers. We would, wouldn't we? And this rise of finfluencers, and the fact now that our product suite with thought leadership ads can support the promotion of those thought leaders who are not necessarily from within your company. That said, we were talking before we started about Larry Fink and some of the other, and Jamie Dimon, some of the very prominent leaders in the FinServ world. Well, they're currently embracing the notion of thought leadership ads to promote their top performing posts to audiences that may not already follow them. Yeah. So it's really powerful to and a good organic paid mix. If you've got a top performing organic post, put some investment behind it to get it out to those net new audiences and bring them in.
Yeah, people I work with are often surprised about the investment, because you can do a great post and literally for like a couple £1,000, you can land that post with like literally the majority of the accounts you want to land, and it's amazing. The results you can get. Yeah,
well, if it's good, that's the point. We're a members first platform, and we reward, back to the algorithm, we reward good content. And so if it's good, if members are engaging with it, it will go far and wide. If it is ill thought through, badly written, doesn't bring a new perspective, isn't timely, isn't empathetic, all those things we've discussed, then it will wither away.
Yeah.
It has to be quality. It's quality first.
There's quite a lot of comments coming through about thought leadership, and it'd be good to hear from you, Jackie, actually on thought leadership, because obviously, you're doing some amazing things on LinkedIn. It'd be great if you could share maybe just a few thoughts around thought leadership, and when you're putting together posts, what do you kind of think about with yourself, or when you're working with your team around thought leadership and the different things you think about before putting a post out? And it'd be great to hear your thoughts around creating great content posts in this area.
Well, thank you. I love just kind of working with your team specifically when I think about the story and the message that I want to tell. So I'd say a significant shift that I've made to the content that I've been sharing on LinkedIn is really taking a step back and thinking about storytelling. So back to your point, Ben, around what does your audience want to hear about? They don't want to see static content or something really flat that's just going to link them out to a company website, and they're going to have to go and read and investigate and come up with their own feeling or perspective on it. And I feel like for us as leaders in the industry, it's incumbent upon us to create and tell that story and provide a way that you want your network to begin engaging with you. And so for me, a piece of that is definitely my professional life, my, FIS family or connections that I'm making in the industry. And then the other side is me as an individual. I have a young family. I have experienced, a return to work 2 times after welcoming children. And so with that, as you're climbing the corporate ladder, has come certain personal, experiences, challenges, insights that, I've found that my network really enjoys engaging with and wants to see and hear about. So I think it's a delicate balance, because it's not, a personal platform. You're not going to share the same things you would on an Instagram or a Facebook necessarily, but it's how do you humanize the material and the work that we do? And it's been exciting to see the evolution in the FinServ space around, what used to be very, kind of, I'd say boilerplate type content into much more, thought leadership and thinking about the direction of the industry and the speed we're working at which. And so, thank you. I appreciate the compliments surrounding the content. I certainly wouldn't call myself a thought leader, but I'd say an expert networker and a person that really enjoys engaging and helping to provide insights where I can.
I think from obviously seeing content you produce in FIS and a lot's going on, I think there's a generational shift happening. I think we're in the period now between 2020 and 2030 where we're going to see a massive transition in leaders from obviously the boomers probably retiring out of the workforce, Gen X and millennials essentially becoming, and Gen Z entering mid-career in their work journeys. So they've all grown up with a completely different world than what we've all traditionally, ascribed in financial services. So but like to get on your commentary on that. I think LinkedIn personally is a great way to engage younger people, they view natively social media as an extension of their world. So, it's almost, I saw a post from Larry Fink the other day. Larry, he might not think, I don't actually want to do social media, but it's not really about him anymore. It's more about, well, actually, our future customers are on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So if you might not want to do it, but this is the way the market's gone. And it's almost like, could you kind of comment on that quickly? There's the generational shift.
I think there's a lot in there. Yes, you're absolutely right. Our fastest growing cohort of members is under the age of 45, and in fact, when you cut even further, that gets younger. I think I would prefer to think of it as a mindset versus a straight demographic split.
Right.
And I think there will always be creative thinkers who are creative thinkers, whatever their age.
Of course.
And there will always be people who are adaptive and adoptive of the new environment. And, however, you do make a very good point about the difference between the sort of digital natives and the digital immigrants.
Yes.
And the digital immigrants being those that, obviously have to learn what this world is like, and those natives being the ones that know different. And I think, there is a difference in comfort level and everything else like that. But in the world we operate in, I would say it's more mindset than age. There are some very, very, shy and risk averse, 30-year-old financial services professionals who wouldn't go near LinkedIn, whereas there are the sort of Noel Quinns of this world, who's in a group chief executive at HSBC, who is on the platform all the time and does extremely well. So I think it'll level up. There's probably a different metric than age that's going to show that, and that would be my observation.
To your point about the demographics as well, I think the way people are buying has changed a lot. Like 5, 10, 15 years ago, people loved to, meet in person, and the first call, there'd be you'd have a first consultation. It'd all be about chats. But now people want to self-learn before they buy anything. So before they even want to talk about your product, they'll look at you on LinkedIn, they'll read a blog, they'll watch a demo, they'll look at case studies. They've probably read 7, 8 different pieces of content before they even talk to you. So the importance of content marketing for sales professionals is so important, because really, by the time you're on a sales call, they should know about you, they should know what you do, the problems you solve, they should have seen some case studies, and it's more or less just kind of talking as a sales rep, talking about, what do you actually want to buy, what 100%. Getting into a sales conversation. And people are busy, and that's why I see a lot of sales reps fail on LinkedIn, is where they go on LinkedIn or email marketing or telemarketing, and they're just trying to cold call people and try to sell them right there. They've never heard of you, they don't know who you are, and the how people are buying definitely changing. Millennials, Gen Z, I saw a post the other day about, people, could they self-serve B2B products and just buy stuff straight from the website, without having to actually talk
content. Content's doing a lot more heavy lifting, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Doing a lot more of the heavy lifting which sales reps would have done. The content's now carrying a lot of that water.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But and again, it's about trust, and one of the ways you drive trust is by demonstrating and understanding and all the points we've made, and bringing that to the forefront, and being open and transparent enough to be able to, and brave enough to be able to bring that forward. And that establishes a relationship before you've even, as you said, before you even made that sales connection, made that relationship exist, because it's a value exchange. A great piece of content enriches and makes my professional life better, and my payback to that is engagement. That value, that seesaw. I engage with your brand because you have given me something of value, that is the future.
Talking about the future, I think it would be hot topic right now, AI, artificial intelligence, and talking about demographic change and how buyers are changing. It'd be good to hear from yourself a bit about LinkedIn and AI's perspective, because I've seen a lot of stuff happening on the platform.
No, absolutely.
So Via, if you've got anything to share with the audience, I think that would be really cool.
Well, I think, first of all, it's well known we're a Microsoft-owned business. Microsoft is at the forefront of AI and its application, and LinkedIn is certainly benefiting enormously from that. But it's also kind of worth pointing out that AI has been a part of the LinkedIn ecosystem for many years now. We had one of the first features you might be able to remember from when you first started your LinkedIn profile was people you may know. That was entirely AI driven. We're long before we were talking about AI in the level that we are now. So it's embedded in our ecosystem, but crucially, responsible AI is at the forefront of what we think about, and ensuring that we are iterating to avoid bias, ensuring that we're iterating for the benefit of our members and not for anything else. But yeah, AI is here to stay, and I think we are at the nub of the hockey stick in terms of its impact on all of our lives. We're all, as Microsoft employees, we're all trying out Copilot at the moment, and it is just phenomenal what Copilot can do across the suite. From, I'm a proud dyslexic, and I find the ability to translate a document into something that is easily understood by a neurodiverse person is one use case which has just been phenomenal for me. But all sorts of other areas. I think if you've seen it, and if you're on the pilot, the AI enhancements to your profile, for example, really great, simple, actionable usage of AI. And there's, as I say, I think across all of our lives, we're at the bottom of the hockey stick in terms of what's coming.
Yeah. My concern for platforms like LinkedIn with AI is that so many people start just using ChatGPT for their posts, and I have seen that a lot. And you can kind of see with the emojis and the style. And I'm personally a big believer in video, and I think video keeps that human connection. But not so much the deep fakes. So I have seen a lot of people starting to use those deep fake videos, but they don't seem to get a lot of engagement. And I think people still long for that human connection. People
by people, and you can spot the inauthentic from a mile off. And I think that said, I think there is a skill in prompt writing. I think badly written prompts equal badly written output. Well-written prompts equal well-written output. But I agree with you. And I think that, again, trust and safety is so important, and as I say, is foundational to the LinkedIn platform. And we have a huge army of people who are checking content and doing that. They're supported by AI models as well, but there's also the real people that are checking and ensuring that we have a safe environment for our members. So again, I've mentioned Copilot, but I love that as a product description, because we're not talking about AI, flying solo. We're talking about AI sitting next to you and making things a bit easier. And that's the balance that we want to maintain. It's not about taking over the world. It's about making things a bit easier to do.
Famous last words, man.
Yeah. We've all seen Terminator.
5 years' time, we'll be working for...
And Jackie, any thoughts you want to add around the AI bit, or around how you're experimenting with AI in your thought leadership and your approach to LinkedIn?
Certainly. I also have been utilizing Microsoft Copilot. It's very impressive. I love it. I'd say that AI in general, as we think about sales, it's always been that intimidation factor of, is it going to replace the role of, say, inside sales or SDR? Is it going to take over? I don't foresee that happening even in the next 5 years. I know you joked about that, James. I think that it's just going to be a way to enhance and refocus and repurpose what we all do. And when I think about how the pandemic has made such significant shifts in our way of working, think about remote work and the amount that you get done in a given day. Really, you're doing the job sometimes of 2 people. And so I think, tools like AI are just that. They're tools to better enable our workforce. So I'll be excited to see how this next generation can teach us how to best adopt these practices. And did just want to make one point, because I saw, Les, you had a couple comments in the chat just around, what's native and the multi-generational landscape on LinkedIn. And I'd say, as long as you've got a growth mindset and you are apt to learn. Anyone can, can appreciate and enjoy the platform. In fact, my parents in their, mid to late 60s are online. I think they're on the live today. So hi, mom and dad, if you are.
Right.
But I mean, my dad's been connecting with people he used to work with and, following their professional journeys. And so I think it, at any age, at any intersection of your career, there can be a lot of power in the platform.
100%.
Do we have any questions or comments at all around that? I think we've got a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure we
Yeah, a few comments here from Will. So trust equals consistency over time. So yeah, fair comment there. Building trust takes time. Got to be consistent. Some comments from Les. We have to be authentic and not to try and pretend we are native. There was a question here actually that I saw earlier from George. So George Weston, how as an individual would you look to help grow your business following? So yeah, any kind of thoughts from the group here about building your following? I am myself following for a mixture of obviously posting content, but also actually I'm quite proactive in reaching out to people and connecting. So I'm a very proactive connector myself as well. So yeah, but I don't know if anyone else wants to contribute to building the following.
I think it's really important to. I am very. I used to organise events, conference events, Reuters events, so kind of very much sales orientated, and being proactive and like being out there, connecting with people, being bold, just creating content. And that's kind of comes naturally to me. But I think if your personality style is different, I think you can approach LinkedIn in a way which suits your personality type. But I think, fundamentally having a good connection strategy, having a good content strategy is really important. And just being cheeky and asking for advice and going on calls with people. I've always found a lot of success just going on LinkedIn and connecting with people and saying, hey, can I have a 10-minute call and just get some advice? And you'd be surprised at just how much can come from one connection request.
Cool. And then, I think that's kind of, we've been answering the questions more or less as we go, to be honest. So if there is any more comments, please do drop them in the chat here. But let me just see if there's anything else coming through.
Well, as Matt looks, I think we only have a couple minutes left. So I think I'll give the final words over to you, Ben, first, and then a final word from Jackie. So Ben, what's your concluding remarks from all of our conversations today?
Well, I think it's been a really, really enjoyable conversation. And I think the big takeouts are the importance of sales and marketing alignment. I think we probably said authenticity is probably if we did a word cloud of this conversation, authenticity and human is there. I think it's quite lovely to spend time with the four of us being such LinkedIn advocates. I think that's been great. There's under no illusion LinkedIn. But no, I think that, as I say, that kind of love that outcome focus, empathy, authenticity, and you cannot. The world has changed. You cannot afford to ignore the notion of your digital presence and your personal brand. And if people will be looking for you, and you have an opportunity to impart an impact on what they find.
Lovely. Jackie?
Famous last words, I think, would be separate of everything we've talked about today. Just have some fun with it. I mean, we've worked with some leaders across my organization that had, prior to being more engaged with Social Tree, really not been active on the platform, and they've enjoyed so much as a result of having a more active voice, getting a lot of in-mails, questions about joining our organization. So I think that it's get out there and have something to say. And I'd be remiss if I didn't call out the amazing work that James and Max and the team are doing along with us, and really the uptick in engagement that we've seen as a result of being a lot more intentional with our content and with the time that we're spending on the platform. So for me, it's be yourself, be empathetic, be authentic, and best represent your organization and your brand. And ultimately, at the end of the day, say something.
Lovely. Well, thank you, Jackie, for joining, and thank you for the lovely words. Again, it's an absolute pleasure working with you and the team and seeing all your journeys and learning a lot. I've learned so much about sales. And like all of our clients, I'm actually like writing notes, being like, oh, that's actually really interesting. I need to be in the head of my buyer more, and like I'm writing that down. So yeah. So my max, I'll probably be sayonara. But thank you, Jackie. It's always a pleasure, and have a great day.
Yeah, and just for the audience out there, if you do feel that you need some help with your LinkedIn journey, or if you're not sure where to kind of take it next, we are offering audits and social selling analysis, so we can look at your team, your performance, what's working, what's not. So we can kind of end. We've got a short video just a bit about our audit offer, and if you're interested in taking your LinkedIn to the next level, that's kind of next step if you did want some help in that area. But I'd like to thank the audience and our guest today.
Thank you, Ben.
And
thank you, Jackie.
Good luck out there.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.